Hello everybody, how are you? Welcome back to Improve Your Python 3. How are you? Welcome back to Improve Your Python 3. We are going to look at if statements today. There's quite a lot to look at. In fact, this is going to go over 2 sessions because we've got so much to look at with if statements. But I'm just checking that the sound's working. Yeah, my sound's working. Good. All right, always good to have the sound going. All right, so we'll go straight on to the code. And we're going to just open up our favourite editor and we're going to start programming and looking at if statements. Again, as all of this is not for complete beginners, but you just need some very basic knowledge of Python and very basic stuff with if statements. All right, so hi. Let's get started. So this is important today. Obviously all of the stuff that we do is important for this, but if statements in particular are used all the time and, so important in any programming. I always say quite often, if you're not sure what you should be doing in a bit of code, 99% of the time you probably need an if statement. So always think about that. Remember that if statements let us choose, we can, have basically branches in our code. And that's what this is all about. It's about deciding what our code is going to run or not run. And there's a lot of stuff that we can do with if statements beyond the basics that we've done. Okay, so the first thing that we need, the first thing that is a really good advanced technique to use on if statements is something called chaining comparisons. So do code along with me unless I say don't, but I don't think there's going to be anything that I don't want you to code today. Anyway, chaining comparisons in if statements. So let's have a look at a range check. Range checks are really important in the IGCSE that I teach, but let's just create some basic code that does a range check. So we're going to create a score and I'm going to set that to be 75. So just a basic variable integer set to 75. And then we're going to do a range check to see is that value score in between 0 and 100. So it's a range check between 0 and 100. So we would write if score is greater than or equal to 0 and score is less than or equal to 100. That's our range check. So we can sort of print something to say that's valid score. So a nice easy range check. And we can print the score, I'll put valid. We can print the score. I'll try not to type too hard so it's not too clunky. Actually, we don't need to print anything else. So yeah, we can just run that. I don't know what I was thinking there. So we run that code, basic range check, no problem. However, there is a neater way to do this called a chaining comparison, because that's what I've put up there. And I'm going to put that there in a moment. I'll just make sure I'm not going too fast. So this is the better way. So a chained comparison. I'm going to leave the score value there, but this time in my if statement, I'm going to put if 0 less than equal, and then the variable score, and then I'm going to put less than equal 100. So this is going to do exactly the same thing as above, but this time we haven't got the and. We've just said if we put basically the variable in the middle, and then what the two ranges are either side. So you're kind of writing it just like you would in maths. So it says, is 0 less than or equal to score? And is score less than or equal to 100? And I think that's the main thing about this, is by using this method instead of the previous one, it is more like math. And there's, you know, a lot of things, a lot of library code in Python that is mathematically based. There's huge amounts. So it's used widely for maths and by mathematicians. And so this is kind of like a better way if you are writing something that is maths based, or, well, you know, just generally because it is, like I said, more mathematical. So what I'm going to do once you've got that is I'm going to write another old version, and I want you to convert it to a chained comparison. So here's the task. And if I'm going too fast, just let me know. But I'm going to put if age greater than or equal to 13 and age less than or equal to 19. By the way, I need to set the age variable, which I haven't done. So age equals 15. So there's my old version. To chained comparison. So see if you can convert this into chained comparison. I hope everyone's there. Everyone's very quiet. Oh, yeah. Good. Okay. Cool. Good. Good. It's always hard to tell whether I'm going too fast or slow. Okay, so all we're going to do for the chain comparison, the answer is if 13 less than equal to age less than equal 19. Print teenager. And then if we run that, you can see they're both exactly the same. You're on your phone, yeah, no problem. I'm using the phone to look at all the chat. Okay, so that's chaining comparisons. Nice, easy start there. Very helpful, very readable. Try and do it if you can. And obviously there's lots of things that you can do with that. You can use that if statement any way you like. You can put it in a function, you can put it nested, etc. But anyway, you don't know what you did, but the code just deleted. Is there an undo button? Yeah, Control Z or Command Z if you're on a Mac. Control Z is your friend. It's definitely my friend over many years. Okay, so you can actually chain lots of other things as well, but we'll just stick with the basics today. We're not going to go too advanced. We'll just stick with the basics. So the next thing that we can do for if statements is something called in or membership. So I'm just going to move all that code down. And the next thing we're going to do is in or membership. I remember learning this at uni because I hadn't really done much programming at all when I started my programming degree, and I can remember some things I can remember a few very specific things, and learning in is one of them. I don't know why. All right, so with in for membership, we can have I don't know. If we're getting user input and they could enter yes or Y, so say we've got this here, and again copy along, we've got choice equals input, continue, and then YN. I'll put a colon there. Okay, so we're asking the user to input something. Now the user could type in any one of these things. So don't type this yet, but they could put in Y, they could put in capital Y, they could put in lowercase n, they could put in uppercase N, they could put in no, they could put in no, they could put in Y, sorry, yes, 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 etc. So there's lots of things that they could put there. And trust me, or even though you've put YN in lowercase, users will do what you don't want them to do. And you always have to think, okay, I've asked the user to do this, but don't expect them to do it, okay? Because they literally, they won't. So there's sort of, and they could put in something else as well. So they could put in something else, but we'll cover that later, if not today. So what you could do, the sort of old way, is you could do this. You could say, so the old way is to do if choice double equals Y, or choice double equals N, or choice double equals capital N. And obviously we could use upper and lower, but we won't today. We'll just, I'm just trying to prove a point here. Or choice double equals lowercase n, or choice, you're getting the idea, it's getting a bit annoying. Or will it let me do this? It might do. Or I can't remember if it lets me put it on the next line. choice equals no, or choice double equals no. You're getting the idea. I'm not going to do them all, but this is just a bit of a nightmare. Let me just check that that works. Hold on. Yeah, no, I have to do it on the same line, which is a bit annoying. Yeah, so we have to put it all on the same line. Okay, so we've just got a little bit of print there. So I'm not going to put all those choices there because otherwise I'm just going to run out of space. But you get the idea. We have to put something like all of this, and it's a bit annoying. So just test that, run it, put the old way because this will help you remember. Remember to keep all your code because you can refer back to it at a future date where you're like, oh, no, I did that. I can't remember exactly the syntax, but I'm going to have a look. And don't worry if you forget the syntax. That's part and parcel of being a programmer, is you forget things and you have to look it up. But it's knowing what tools you have and sorts of things that you can do that's more important than remembering things off by heart. Okay, so the new way, using in. So what we can do is, instead of all those equals, we can do this. We can say if choice in, and then we put square brackets. We're effectively sort of creating a temporary array. Y, capital Y, oh, we've done capital Y, N, N, yes, yes, all lowercase, no. Oh, I'm using double quotes there, actually. I think I use double quotes. I prefer double quotes. What else we got? What other variations? No in capitals. We could have no, and we could have lowercase no. Like that. And then we put the colon there, and we can say print input valid. So effectively what you're doing is you're creating a temporary array just for this if statement. And what in does is said, has what they entered, is it contained in this list or in this array? So you can call it containment. And if you've done any other sort of maths, you might have done it, it's also part of set theory. And set theory is really important in computing. As you can see, we're using it. We're testing to see, is what the user entered or what they typed in this set of values. Are you going to use a while loop or elif else? Not today. No, we're not really doing that today. We're just, but that we will next week, because this is a big subject. There's lots of stuff to look at with if statements because they use so much. There's a lot of things that we can tweak and do. But we're not going to do if. We're not going to do else and elif today. So just try that and do let me know in the chat when you've done it, because I'm hoping I'm not going too fast. But I should be able to run it. If I run it and I put no like that, that's fine. The input's valid. Obviously it didn't hit the first one because I didn't put all the choices in the first one. But I could do, if I run it again, I could put just a load of rubbish, and you can see it hasn't selected. It's not a valid input. So I've got a task for you. Write an if statement using in that checks if the user has input a vowel. So that's your task. Write an if statement. Oh, hang on. There you can see it. Write an if statement using in that checks to see if the user has input a vowel. And then you can just put it whatever you want afterwards. Couldn't you just use concatenation? In what way? I'm not sure what you mean. Okay, yeah, no problem, yeah. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so the answer to this is, well, there's two answers. I'm going to show you one because there is something very clever that we can do as well with this. But we're just going to say if, actually we need to get the choice. So letter equals, you might have called your variable something else, but I'm just going to put input, enter a vowel or enter a letter. And then I'm going to do if letter in a, and I'll just do it all lowercase, E, I, O and U. Actually, what I could do, I'll make it all lowercase. Don't worry if you didn't do this. I'm just going to put it all lower. And then we just do print. You entered a vowel. So hopefully you had something like that. You did all lower, all upper. Yeah, that's fine. If you put in here uppercase A, E, I, O, U, that's absolutely fine. I'm just not doing it to save time. So if I run this, let's just do this. Right, enter a letter. So if I enter H, it won't do anything. I run it again. If I enter, no, and then enter a letter, O, you entered a vowel. So that's worked. So it's set theory. It's called containment. Set theory is big in computing. It's used a lot in databases, especially if you're searching a database. You're searching for, I don't know, you've got a database of patients at a doctor's surgery and you're looking for everybody who is in that database who's under 5. Then you would, the search criteria is that their age is less than 5. Are they contained in that set of people that are under 5? It's very similar. Now, what you can actually do with this as well, so there is even an alternate with this. With strings, you can check just one string. So alternate, even cleverer than the one we did above, even more clever, is we can do if letter in A, E, I, O, U, print you entered a vowel. And you can only do this with strings, by the way. So obviously if you've got numbers, that's not going to work. There we go. But don't worry, I mean, like I said, you can just use that version, that's fine, but this version is even more clever. So just get that down, and then we'll move on to the last thing that we're going to look at today. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to look at today, this is really clever, and this will really elevate your code and make you look much more professional if you start using this. So I'm just going to move all that code down, and actually we'll just start up here. So this is something weird, you might not have heard of it, so don't worry if you haven't. It's called truthy and falsy values. truthy, oh, can't spell, truthy and falsy values. Yeah, this is really, really powerful stuff, this, if you can understand it. Basically, every value in Python has an inherent truthiness. So something is either true or false in a Boolean context, even if it's not actually a Boolean. So I'm just going to put that down in Python so you can type this to remember it. Every value has an inherent truthiness. It's either true or false. In a Boolean context, even if it's not a Boolean. So I do write this down as a comment because it will help you remember. Like I said, a lot of this is just about keeping the code, remembering what you can do and coming back to it and thinking, I know I did that. I can't exactly remember, but I'm going to look it up. I spent half my time when I was a programmer, working as a programmer, looking stuff up, especially in the context of what I was programming for that company. So what we would do the old way we could have, for example, we're checking that the name, old way to check that a name isn't blank. So we would have name equals blank. These days you have AI. Yeah, I mean, you know, you can use AI, but I mean, yeah, I would say ChatGPT is, I mean, they're all good at coding. For beginner stuff, I wouldn't use it for anything else because they are very prone to errors. But for the basic stuff and to look it up, it's very helpful. But just remember that, you know, if you are using it, you obviously have to have an internet connection. So if you're like me, your internet and there's black spots of no data where I am as well, it's a nightmare. But also try and look at your own work because they can get a bit too, like, they'll try and explain everything. So you ask them one simple question and they'll explain everything. And I don't know if you've seen my video that I did on the channel about why it's really important to be a programmer even in the age of AI. And that is because although they can write code, a lot of the time it's not very good code in the context and it's unsafe code, not security. I mean, not good for security. In Python idle, how do you do a comment in more than one line? So more than one line comment, you can do triple quotes like that. Oh, it won't let me do it. Triple quotes. This is a multi-line comment. And then you close off the triple quotes. Always remember, lots of people forget to do the closing off the triple quotes. You can use that in any Python context. The Python interpreter knows what the triple quotes are. But yeah, be careful because everybody always forgets to do the last one. So we can say if name double equals blank, we can put no name entered. So this is the old way. If name double equals quotes, no name entered. So we know that. That's going to run as we thought. No name entered. There we go. It's blank. That's fine. no problem. There's nothing wrong with this line of code, but there is a better way. We're using truthy and falsy values. Now, instead of that, because name equals blank has an inherent truthy or falsy value, we can use that in an if statement. All we have to do is put if not name, print no name entered. So basically, if something is blank, if a string is blank, it's false. It's a falsy value. And we've said if not name. Now, those of you who are in the second year have done logic gates, you'll know the not. I mean, even just in real life, not is negative of something. So it's basically we're saying if not true, i.e. false. I'll put that there as well. If not true, i.e. false. Then we're going to print no name entered. So there's lots of things that we can use this with. So I'm just going to put a few down here. We can have, what is falsy values? So we've got false, obviously. False, if I can write, can't write today. False. There's also none. We haven't covered none, but none is there. 0 is also false. Empty string. Empty array. Well, technically it's a list, but we won't worry too much about that. Empty dictionary. So we haven't done dictionaries yet, but that is a empty dictionary. Basically any data structure that is empty. Empty dictionary and an empty tuple. Again, we haven't done tuples. I really can't type today. Empty tuple. There we go. So that's our falsy values. So we could do another one. So we could do, let's do my array equals blank array. If not my array, print empty array. There we go, we've got an empty array. We could alternatively do another one. So you could say if my array, print array has values. So I'm just going to change that. So I'm just going to add my array dot append hello. And then you can see the array has values. So you don't have to put the not in. You can check to see if it's got values in. It's entirely up to you if you use not, or if you use the falsy or the truthy. It's entirely up to you. So just add that in. And I think we're almost done. I think we'll finish there today. There's lots of other examples for this, for falsy, truthy, falsy, and it just depends on what you're sort of getting from the user, what you're testing, etc. But this sort of thing is very helpful, especially if you are checking, I don't know, file input or database values, because quite often a lot of programming is just connecting to databases, getting data from the database, and then checking it and doing some work with it. So, yeah. I think what we'll do next week actually is we'll have a look at a sort of a proper example using these as well. A chunkier bit of code rather than smaller bits. So I hope you found that helpful. Next week, we'll carry on looking at if statements, and we're going to look at how we can sort of structure our if statements in a better way. And we'll dive into if and else a bit more. And if we've got lots of sort of nested ifs, we'll look at how we can sort of help with that. And we might even go into a third week actually for this, because we haven't done match. And match is similar to a case statement. And well, it is a case statement. It's not similar, it's a case statement. But it's an incredibly powerful thing. So yeah, is the bottom the truthy one? Yeah, the bottom one is the truthy one. Yeah, because you haven't got the not. You're saying, is it true? I.e., does it have a value? So I'll put this here actually. You're saying, is the array not empty, i.e. has values. Truthy. Yeah, there you go. All right, so take care, everybody, and have a good week. I might see you in some of you in my lessons today and tomorrow, hopefully. And yeah. Yeah, and there is a revision tonight, 6 o'clock to 6:45 for the IGCSE. All right, take care.